Here's today's question. How do you know when you're finished? Very interesting question when thinking about your art and your design. How do you know when you're done? I think this quote goes to Peter Jackson. He said he never really finished, he just ran out of time. And that's pretty much what happens to me too. Deadlines are what make me know I'm finished. I literally and figuratively finished. So having a deadline is, I think, the most important way to focus yourself and to know when to be done with something. Because if you don't have an official deadline, you'll rework and work that thing to death. But if you have that deadline looming and you've just got to get it done and have something to deliver, that's what it's all about. So I think another question related to that then would be, how do you create a deadline when there isn't one? So let's say you're creating art for yourself, or you're working on a project that isn't a commission. How do you know when it's done? So to me, you have to kind of trick yourself a little bit. You have to know and learn how to say, that's enough. I need to move on to the next thing. And for me, I guess I have to ask myself a few questions to get to that point. Um, have I gotten, you know, as far as I can with this? Is it is it living up to the thing that I was trying to make in the first place? I mean, what started me on creating that piece? And so am I, how far or how close to that am I? Granted, I'm the type of person that is rarely satisfied with my art and design. So I always will nitpick and find things to finish. But with experience, I've learned to be more objective about my own work. And I can look at something and say, you know what? It's good enough. Stop messing with it and move on. Um, so you have to learn to say to yourself, good enough. Instead of looking at the negative, looking at what's unfinished, start looking at what is finished and what you like about the piece. Force yourself to do that. And if the majority of the things are in the better or good category, then the fix and don't fix category, then it's done. I think they call it the 80-20 rule, where you get 80% there, is more important than fixating on that final 20%. So learn to cultivate that attitude where you can be very honest with yourself and say, I just shouldn't spend any more time on this because this thing is taking so much time. It's going to stop me from making something else. And I need to make something else too. I don't want to neglect that by focusing so much on this and being such a perfectionist. So that's an idea. So try to cultivate that attitude so you know when you're done. Next thing, let's look at the next question here. Do you ever scrap projects completely? Well, that's another one kind of related to this. How do you know when to abandon something and to give up? That can be really difficult, especially when, you know, this idea you wanted to achieve, this thing you wanted to do, this story you wanted to tell, this art you wanted to make, you can really overwork it. And then at some point you realize, oh, it's just not working. It's not going to work, or I don't know how to do it, or I just can't get there. So that's, I guess, when you do that measure, you say, okay, does this lean more in the not going to get there column or not going to ever get there column? That's when you know to like change gears and give up because it's much better to know that, hey, this isn't working out. So if I can change quickly and move on to something else, better. That's, I think, what we call failure, right? We want to fail forward. We want to work on something, be very objective, and if it's just not working, then move on to the next thing, learn from that, apply maybe that, take it apart, maybe use some of it, gain from it, but don't fixate on it and stop yourself. So, to sum up everything from what we're talking about here, I think it's important to look at what you're doing, what your goals are, and try not to get stuck in neutral where you're just spinning your gears, doing the same thing over and over and over again. You need to find a way to finish things. So you start accumulating finished work, and then you need to decide when that idea isn't measuring up, And instead of that being a lack of confidence and say, I'm just no good, it's, hey, that thing's no good. I'm setting that one aside. I'm going to make something else. That's where you want to go. So try to build up that work ethic, but also just that honest attitude that, hey, it didn't work this time. I'll keep trying. Something's going to work out eventually. And you'll be surprised that if you force yourself to finish things and you put them aside for a while, you'd be surprised how far you get, where you go, wow, I've really done a lot. And you look back at your portfolio and you're like, wow, I didn't know I did so many things. You know, somehow we just forget that. So it's definitely a better attitude to look at what you finished and what's working than always be so hung up on what's not. All right. Good luck with that. Nice chatting. If you have some questions or comments that you'd like to hear me talk about, comment here, write them here, and I'll talk about them in the next video. See you next time.